If you've been feeling trapped, stuck in a season or a cycle that you know you have no business being in, then in this video, we're going to talk about why that may be and what you can do to overcome this. Now, what we're going to do in this video specifically is we're going to talk about what this cause might be. And then I'm going to share a parable from one of Jesus's teachings that applies so perfectly to this topic. And I'm also going to share my personal struggles with this. We're going to go over that first. So we're going to share my personal struggles with this. We're going to go through the parable that applies perfectly to this. And then we're basically going to go through some action steps that you can take in order to overcome this and step into the season and step out of the cycle right now that you're in and step into the season that God has for you. So if you're new to the channel, which you probably are because this is only my second video here on this channel, my name is Drew Favre and this channel is called Fit for the Kingdom, where I am here to serve and help men become as fit as they can be physically, mentally, emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually, to serve the kingdom of God and to grow his kingdom. So with that said, guys, let's dive into this. So what is this thing that is keeping you trapped in this cycle and stuck in the season that you just can't seem to break out of? What is it, guys? Well, very simply put, it's pride. Your pride is keeping you stuck in the cycle that you don't want to be in and stuck in the season that God has already called you out of. And the reason I know this is because, for one, it's written all through Scripture, and we're going to get into that. But for two, because it was my own downfall. I'm going to share with you guys two examples that applies to this specifically. I have dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, I'm sure, in my life of examples of this, but these two are very easy to understand and it's very simple for me to explain. So the first one that pride really hurt me in is when it comes to money. Now, what I mean by this is that after graduating high school, I knew I wanted to be rich and I knew I wanted to help people and I knew I wanted to do it through fitness. I didn't know what that all looked like, but I knew that was part of God's calling for me. And even though let me kind of push back a little. I thought that's what God's calling was for me. I actually did not know God at the time, right? That was 10 years ago. And I just recently got to know God on a very real and intimate level, which we're going to talk about. So I felt like that was my purpose. And I wanted to get rich so bad. And my parents, I love you, Mom and Dad, if y'all are watching this. During my early journey of entrepreneurship, when I left the stable job that I had where I was making really good money, were giving me financial advice. And I just was not listening to them. And I was not listening to my parents about this financial advice because I was too puffed up. I was too prideful. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to get rich. You guys have never been entrepreneurs. You're not rich. I can't take your advice because I can't take the same path as you. Now, part of that was because I'm getting advice from a ton of entrepreneurs in person and online saying that, you should never take advice from the people who aren't in the position you want to be in. But here's where I was overlooking. You see, my parents may not have been rich, but my entire life, we had stability and we had more than enough. Sometimes my mom worked, sometimes she didn't. But my dad worked a job where he always made $80,000 to $100,000 a year, sometimes probably a little more depending on the amount of overtime he worked. So we always had stability, and now my parents are in their early 60s, they're fully retired, they're set, they don't have to worry about money. So my dad did an incredible job earning, and then my parents did an incredible job managing that money and setting themselves up for success. So yes, they're not entrepreneurs, but they did an incredible job of setting themselves up. And I should have listened to their advice when it came to money management. But because I wanted to be this rich guy and I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I was willing to invest as much as I possibly could into my career, I didn't listen to their advice. And it cost me tens of thousands of dollars, minimum, guys, tens of thousands of dollars, I'm telling you. So with that said, right, I could have saved so much money had I listened to them and not been so high on myself and so arrogant. All right, guys, sorry about the switch up in video quality here, but the batteries on my camera just died. And I refuse to stop this message. Admittedly, I was unprepared. Didn't realize my battery was so low in this camera. But regardless, I'm going to keep recording this message because I think it's super important. So I believe I was at the part in the story where I was saying, first and foremost, pride held me back with money and managing my finances when my parents were giving me sound advice and I just wasn't listening, right? Then the second part of this, that's really more important, honestly, is my walk with God. My pride kept me so far from God, and I didn't even realize it. You see, I thought I was being spiritual. I thought I was pursuing all these different enlightened paths, but I didn't realize that these were all just more ways of being self-fulfilled and filled with the self and full of self-inflation and ego inflation. And part of it was because when you take these different practices up and different spiritual approaches, ultimately you're still the center of it. You still get to be the center of all of it. And, I'm not talking about any crazy spiritual practices. I'm just talking about like different philosophies of spirituality and not really saying there is one God, or I could never know who God is. So I'm just going to kind of create my own God in my head. And truth be told, part of that also means at some points in that journey, I was my own God. And that is so painful and cringeful for me to say now, that I was once my own God at one point in my life. And I feel it in my stomach right now. It's kind of disgusting, but it's true. And it wasn't like this, like, I think I'm God, the creator of the universe. It was like, no, like, I am the orchestrator of my own life, and I have the power to manifest reality, right? That's more of what it was. But looking back, I realized that's my own pride, and that's my own ego wanting to be more important than it actually is. And if you go look in the book of Proverbs, it says that pride goes before the destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. And that's exactly where I was. I was prideful and I had a haughty spirit. And Proverbs 16:5 says, everyone who is arrogant in heart is an abomination to the Lord. Be assured he will not go unpunished. And now when people hear this, they're like, dang, like God is ruthless. And what I'll say to that is God is just, okay? So God is very much just. But what you need to understand is that it doesn't necessarily mean here that God is going to punish you for being arrogant. You see, the real punishment of being so puffed up and arrogant and prideful is not knowing him. That's the real punishment. The pain that goes with not walking in fellowship with him and just trying to do life your own way. That is the punishment. And through that comes all kinds of chaos in life that we have no business being a part of. And that is the theme of this video, and that very well could be what is keeping you stuck in the season that you don't want to be in and stuck in the cycle that you can't seem to break. It very well could be your own pride, and you may not even know it. So let's dive in to the parable of the sower. I think this is the ultimate parable to break this down and tie into this topic of pride and just not being receptive, right? Because when you're prideful, you're not receptive. And we're going to go into that here shortly after we go through this parable. So in this parable, Jesus is on a boat and he's preaching to a crowd. And basically, I'm just going to read it straight out. It says, listen, a farmer went to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among the thorns, which grew up and choked the plants, so they did not bear grain. Still other seed fell on good soil, and it came up, grew, and produced a crop. Some multiplying 30, some 60, and some 100 times. Then Jesus said, whoever has ears to hear, let them hear. Now, what does this parable mean, guys? And how does this relate to your pride? Well, you see, when you're prideful and you're too puffed up on yourself and you're trying to defend the identity of yourself that you think you have, and you're shying away from the glory of God and the purpose that he has for you and all the people he's put in your life to point you back to him and to help you to break through this season. There's people in your life right now who want to help you, but you're too blind by your pride to see how God is using them to help you. When you live like this, you are the bad soil with the thorns. You are the path where the birds came and ate the seeds off the path. That is you. And that was me. And sometimes it feels like that's still me. But if you're stuck in a season right now, it's because you aren't good soil. So how do you become good soil? Well, the first thing I would say is to seek God with all of your heart and all of your mind, and surrender to Him and seek Him and ask for forgiveness for your pride. Ask Him to give you humility and ask Him to wake you up to all of the people and opportunities He's put in your life to help you grow and get out of the season that you're currently in and get out of the cycle that you're currently in. First and foremost, that's step one. Step two is to approach every situation in life, your personal relationships, your relationships at work, anytime you're out in public, approach them with humility. Approach them not as somebody who knows it all and somebody who has achieved X, Y, and Z, but approach them as somebody who is ready to learn and somebody who is ready to serve. When you approach life from that lens, you're going to be able to receive all of the lessons that are there for you, and you're going to be able to implement them and continue to walk your life at the pace that God has intended for you. We have to be childlike. We have to be curious. We have to be humble. We have to be excited to learn from anybody and everybody. We have to be excited to help people, right? We need to become childlike, because that is where the wisdom lies. That is where God lies. And that is where we will be able to find the teachings, the wisdom, and the inspiration to get through the current cycle, the current season that you're in. Step in to what God has for you. So that's going to bring this video to an end, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Please share this with somebody. If you're enjoying it and you think a lot of people can gain value from this, please share it with a friend, share it on your social media, and also drop a comment, guys, and let me know what you thought of this. Let me know how it helped you, if it did help you, or let me know what kind of topics you want to hear me talk about in the future. Ultimately, I am here to serve with this channel, and I want this to reach as many people as possible, because I feel this overwhelming call and this overwhelming weight to share these types of messages with as many people as possible. It feels burdensome, to be honest, guys. It does feel burdensome, but in the best way possible. I know that might sound a little contradictory, but it makes sense to me. It's very burdensome that I get to share this with as many people as possible, but at the same time, it feels like the greatest honor ever. So share this with people if you found it helpful. And until the next one, guys, I'm out.